All right, moving on here with Digital Trends Live. Let me just say this. The need for everyone eligible to vote has never been more important than it is now. And with that, there's an initiative called Feel Good Voting, which is organizing influencers to get young people in particular out to vote. We have two guests from this initiative joining us now. I'll introduce each separately here. First off, we have the co-founder and executive director of Feel Good Voting, Andy Forrest. Hello, Andy.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing great. And with him, we have the activist, organizer, and self-proclaimed future president, Deja Foxx. Hello, Deja. Andy, let's start on your side of things here. And maybe if you can fill everybody in on this initiative itself and what some of the initial reasons were you had for founding it.
Yeah, we were really kind of flabbergasted that in the 2016 presidential cycle, 100 million people did not vote. 100 million eligible voters sat out on the sidelines, and that's the largest block of the U.S. electorate. You know, both of the leading candidates in the presidential election had 60 million some odd votes, but 100 million people did not cast a ballot. And many of those folks are young, 18 to 30 years old. And so really, Feel Good Voting is about activating young people into the electoral process. And we do that with social media influencers like Deja.
Well, and with that, Deja, let's see if we're having a little bit of a sound issue here. We'll see if we've got you back on. But Deja, I did want to talk to you about that. Okay, we're working on Deja's side of things here just to fix the mic right now. Our production will let me know. But in the meantime, Andy, let me just ask you. Okay, Deja's there now. Sorry, we're broadcasting live, everybody. You know, this kind of stuff happens. It's with tech. So, Deja, so you in particular, now I know you're active in so many different things. As we said there at the beginning, you know, you're an influencer, you're an activist. What is the message that you are telling your followers, and how are you getting that message out there?
Right. So I think as an influencer, right, we often think of these like celebrities posting products, but really at the core of it, influencers are content creators and they're community builders and they're storytellers. And so when I'm talking to my audience, I'm speaking from my personal experience. Why does voting matter to me? Why does it matter to my community? And I've been a digital relational organizer for forever, right? Mobilizing those people who follow me because they care about me and they care about what I care about. And so when I tell them that I care about voting and showing up for the election and making sure that we win big come November, they care about it too. And I really think that that's the crux of influencer marketing around voting, is really mobilizing those digital relationships to create change and drive action.
Well, when you talk about those digital relationships, what social media platforms do you find work the best for this particular kind of engagement? And maybe you can talk a little bit about what some of the initiatives that you're most passionate about when it comes to this.
Sure. So I think across the board, Instagram is the place for community building, right? It's the place where we can go on live and where our community is super curated and really invested. And so I think in some sense, Instagram is the best for mobilizing those digital relationships. But then on the other end, we definitely have things like TikTok where, we have these large audiences of young people who are really just getting this content for the first time, and where you're reaching people that otherwise might not have seen your content. And so I think TikTok and Instagram are really the place to do it.
Well, talking about the different platforms, that's very interesting. Thank you very much. Andy, over to your side of things, something else that's very big when we talk about social media, particularly now, are misinformation, disinformation campaigns, organized campaigns to both undermine the election and kind of divide people. How, I guess, susceptible do you think the audience is that your target demographic is, and what are some different ways you can try to mitigate those by getting accurate information to them?
Well, we do that because people like Deja, social media influencers, already have the relationship with their followers, and they are positive change agents. And so that's why we partner with people. It's not an accident that we're called Feel Good Voting. We believe that it feels good to participate in the electoral process and feels good to be part of that community. So we know that there's a lot of negative ads out there, and there's a lot of nefarious forces that are trying to polarize things and rip things apart. And that type of fear mongering can work in the short run. Unfortunately, it is especially effective by turning people off of the system rather than turning people on. So we do the opposite. We go after uplifting messages, and we go after social media influencers like Deja who have an uplifting message. 18 to 24-year-olds, that Gen Z component, only 7% of them visit what folks would call a traditional news source. Most of them are getting their information about the world from different sites, people like Deja who are highly influential in their lives, and that's where they're getting and sharing information. So we kind of try to stay within a positive community of people who are talking about making change in a positive way.
Which is so great, and that's why it's important, Deja, what you're doing, just like you said there, Andy, 7% of that population is not going to these other sources. So they're going to people like you, and that's why it's great that, to get this accurate information out there to people and to emphasize, what's important to you. And I guess to that extent, say that, we've got our audience that's watching right now, say for like 30 to 60 seconds, what would you say to other people that you're trying to target right now with this, as far as why you think it's important they should go out and vote?
I'd like to add something. I think,
Yeah, please.
Each and every one of us can be an influencer in this election. Each and every one of us has a community online who cares about us no matter the size. And so putting out those messages and mobilizing those relationships, we have this really unique space as Gen Z where we've never lost touch with anyone. Our best friend from first grade, the person we met at a party, right? All of them exist in these digital communities that we've created, and we have the opportunity to speak to them. So no matter the size of your audience, you have the opportunity to be an influencer in this election and really encourage people to vote. So get out there, start using your voice, and mobilize your personal relationships.
One thing that a lot of people don't realize
Fantastic.
is that in America, it's a secret who you vote for, but it's not a secret if you voted. So if you're running for office, you get a voting roll, you get the voting record, and you market your platform to the people who have already voted. When you don't vote, you make yourself invisible. You're taking yourself out of the equation. You're wiping yourself off the dry erase board. And that's what people have to realize, that even if you don't love the perfect candidates, they're not the perfect candidates for you, don't take yourself out of the equation. It's not a bone marrow transplant. You're not looking for the perfect person. It's a bus ride. You're trying to take the bus that gets you closer to where you want to go.
That is a fantastic analogy that you just had right there. And for this too, for this initiative that you have, Feel Good Voting, and again, it is so important for people to vote. I just want to emphasize that myself. How can people get involved with what you're doing? Deja, maybe let me ask you. You mentioned, that anybody can be kind of an influencer. What would you recommend that people do if they want to get involved with this particular campaign that you've got going?
Yeah, I think anyone can get involved, right? And so looking at what the call to action is, and maybe it's not posting it with a swipe up, but maybe it's sending it to your 5 closest friends or your group chats, right? And calling people to action directly. I think that could be an incredibly impactful action, because if each and every one of us invited 5 of our friends, right, and they invited 5 of theirs, we would be able to create a real change and get the millions of young people in our lives and in our networks out to vote. But I'll pass it to see what they can do more specifically with Feel Good.
Well, of course, the folks, when you go to feelgoodvoting.org and you click on the donation link, you are fueling this fire. We're fueling the fire of getting young people to vote, and once they enter that process, they will create habits that can last a lifetime of voting. When 18 to 30-year-olds vote, they tend to vote for environmental justice and for social justice, and those are really behind our mission. So feelgoodvoting.org, that's the best way, but if you want to email us there, we can tell you other ways to get involved as well if you want to roll up your sleeves and dig in with us.
Well, definitely, everyone go check that out. I mean, all the things that you just mentioned are indeed so important. I just want to emphasize that again. Vote. Everybody go out and vote. Like, it's so important to do that. Register if you haven't registered. And with what you're doing there, I want to say, Andy and Deja, thank you very much for sharing your message here on Digital Trends Live and doing what you're doing and getting everybody out there and educated in what all these different issues are. And thanks for being here with us.
Hey, Greg, thanks for having us on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.